What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Gaming Without Parole. Sitting across from me this week and every week, day in, day out.
Day in, day out.
Desra.
Hello. And sitting across from me, of course, is Brian Paul.
It's a small world after all.
It is, still.
That has nothing to do with this.
And it's a small room.
It's a small room
and
after
it feels
all.
smaller every week.
It does. It does. Without Parole Games Studios is shrinking.
Yeah.
Yes.
Although we still have a global view of the skyline.
Yeah, Gotham City is beautiful this time of year.
It is.
Thanks for coming by and checking us out. If this happens to be your first time watching Gaming Without Parole, make sure you subscribe to our channel with youtube.com/withoutparolegames. That should be right down there. But you're kind of already there, so just hit the subscribe button. Also, if you like what you see, if you want to come back and see us every week, throw us a few bucks on Patreon. Patreon.com/withoutparolegames.
And if you don't like what you see, keep it to yourself.
Or tell your friends how much you don't like it and tell them to come watch us.
Dare them.
We dare you.
The show is terrible. I dare you to subscribe to it and give them money. That's not the best sales pitch I've ever given.
Challenge accepted. All right. So we want to talk about one of my favorite genres of all time.
Okay.
I think I say that every week.
Well, yeah, but it's true because you really like games, so you know.
Gaming is my favorite genre of all time.
Gaming without parole.
Hey, new T-shirts. Actually, this has nothing to do with it.
Ready? New T-shirts. Ooh, we'll do this.
Oh yeah.
This is risky. This
is risky business.
Ooh,
whoa.
Very dangerous.
Yeah. No. Okay. We're good. You can spin back around. All right. That was good. The camera approves.
Camera approves. How about the wavy background?
If you want your very own Without Parole Games T-shirt, well, you're kind of out of luck. But let us know if you want one, and then if you do, we'll make it happen.
Yes.
We'll find a way to get them out for sale.
These are from a limited test run we did. So if we have enough interest in people who actually want these things, we'll make it real. So let us know.
Even better, coming soon, hopefully within the next week or two, we should have a prototype for Without Parole Games hoodie. Perfect for the nice cold weather that we're experiencing here in the Northeast.
Yes.
Yeah. 3D platformers.
3D platformers.
They are my favorite genre of game.
All right. Well, they're going to be somebody's favorite.
They are. They really are. I remember, especially the PlayStation 1 era, that was probably my jam when it came to 3D platformers. Always a tough transition when you go from the 16-bit era to the 32-bit era. We kind of perfected 2D platforming, if you remember our last episode.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. We talked about that. Yes,
2 episodes ago, right? Yeah, so if you remember that, then those were... We kind of perfected them at a certain point. Mm-hmm. But then once everything went 3D...
Everything changed, yeah. Had to relearn we had to relearn how to play them. Developers, designers had to relearn how to make them, because suddenly there was this whole other dimension that they got to play with.
Yeah, camera controls were a bitch.
Yes, and still are to this day, actually. I don't think anyone's completely nailed the whole camera issue.
Now, the greatest invention ever was the addition of a second analog stick on a controller.
That's true.
That often became the camera controls, and still kind of to this day doubles as that. Which brings me to the very first game I want to talk about.
Okay.
And that is Ape Escape.
Ape Escape. Oh, yes.
On the PlayStation 1, 1999.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you something about this game. This was the very first PlayStation game to require the use of a DualShock controller, the double analog stick.
Oh, okay.
Didn't use that stick for camera controls, however. The great thing about Ape Escape was that, you're this little boy and you're running around and you're trying to catch evil monkeys who all
have sirens on their head.
Sirens on their head, exactly. Being controlled by the evil monkey something or other. I don't remember. Spike, maybe. Let's go with Spike.
Spike the monkey.
Spike the monkey. And I have no idea. So you run around and you catch them, but you have a plethora of weapons and gadgets to use. And all of those gadgets are mapped to the face buttons, triangle, square, circle, and X. So you choose which thing you want to use, whether it be the stun club, the net, the RC car, the monkey radar, whatever it is. You hit that button, and you're using it.
Right.
But to actually use it, you use the right analog stick
to actually control it.
To point it in the direction you want to use it, or if you're using the radar, you have to hold it. And I remember holding the radar and spinning my thumb slowly around the analog stick.
You could scan.
And scanning in 360.
Yep.
And then the controller would start vibrating, boom, 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 when you hit, when you're facing the direction of your next monkey target. Monkey target.
Monkey target.
I want this to be an iOS game.
Oh, actually, yeah. I mean, even just like a little mini. Oh, you could do like a mini augmented reality. Actually, yeah. How come you haven't gotten on that yet, people?
Monkey Target.
All right, Pokemon Go has kind of sailed, but I think now it's time for Monkey Target.
So it was an innovative use of the DualShock controller, and like I said, the first one to actually require the use of it.
Right.
Overall, it was a great 3D platform game. All the levels were on the smaller side. Graphics weren't amazing, but it was innovative.
Yeah.
And that was good. And it spawned a couple sequels. There was Ape Escape 2 and 3 on the PlayStation 2. And then what I thought was going to be amazing, when the Move controllers came out, there was a Ape Escape game specifically made for the Move.
Right.
Now, I was like, well, this is great because Ape Escape 1 revolutionized control schemes with DualShock, the original DualShock. So I was like, this is going to be, in my opinion, I was totally wrong, the reason to have a Move. Right? This is going to show us the right way to use Move controllers. Like, here's something innovative. And it was something stupid. It was like a slingshot crap target practice thing. So, no bueno on that.
No, and I mean, but that goes to the problem with the Move and with the Wii and with that whole generation of motion-controlled games. No one really quite cracked it, so it's not too surprising they didn't either.
Ape Escape, still fun. Don't get the PSP version because, of course, the PSP, it was ported to the PSP like 5 years later.
It doesn't have
It has single analog nub,
Yeah.
and not a second analog nub. So it kind of defeated the purpose of bringing that to the PSP at all. Right. That was a dumb move. Way to go, Sony. You've done it again. I went a little longer on that than I thought, so why don't you just take over with the next game.
So when I think 3D platformers, here's we had a kind of discussion about this. Was like Brian's favorite genre of game, and this is a genre that almost completely missed me because I actually at this point I had switched from consoles and kind of gotten into PC gaming.
Okay.
And I mean there were 3D platformers around it, but really that was not the right device to play those games on. Yeah. They were console games. So there's a lot of them I missed, but one of them I really got into when I got back into console gaming was, of course, if we're talking about 3D platformers, we're talking about Mario, Super Mario Sunshine.
You pronounced Mario 64 wrong.
No, it was a perfect fan. Super Mario Sunshine.
No, say it. 64.
Sunshine.
64.
Sunshine.
Go on.
Yes. Again, Super Mario 64, yes, it's a fantastic game, innovative use of 3D console, 3D platformers. Showed everyone else this is what a 3D platformer should look like and should be, etc., etc., etc. But you know that already. Let's move on. Super Mario Sunshine, I like it. A lot of the reasons people don't like it are reasons I do like it. It's a complete change in the type of game, the type of universe, the type of storyline even. It's one of the first, actually I think one of only two main Mario titles where there's no Luigi, and the princess does not get kidnapped in the first 10 seconds of the game. She's actually a character for a little bit. Yeah. It also uses, and this is, arguable, but it also uses voice acting for the first time, and a lot of it. It's also really bad voice acting.
Yeah, I mean, it's not great.
Yeah, it's not the best. I mean, Charles Martinet, hey, we love you, but let's put this on the directors rather than the actors. Here's another weird thing in my trade of finding weird things about popular games. So, of course, the original Japanese edition had voice acting as well. Mm-hmm. They used the English voice acting.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And
subtitles.
So subtitled. So the Mario game released in Japan with voice acting, used the English voice acting. So it's kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
It is a weird one.
Now, this is the game which on GameCube that Mario had FLUDD on the back of him.
Yes.
Where he's cleaning up graffiti.
Okay. So here's what we're going to do. I want to play a little game with this. I have written down here what FLUDD stands for. It is an acronym, FLUDD. Right? Here's your challenge. If you are watching this right now, I want you to write down what you think the answer is in the comments. And at the end of the episode, I will give away the answer. And so, but I want you to write in the comments and hit send so we actually have a record of what you think the answer is. No going to Wikipedia, no searching up. I'm trusting you folks.
I know our audience.
Yeah.
They're a bunch of liars and cheaters.
Well, and they should be if they're our audience. Yeah. But we'll see.
Look it up. Then leave a comment. You all got it right.
And if anyone, that's what I say. If anyone gets it wrong, that is the one honest person.
If you ever played video game True or False, remember, you're on the honor system.
So in a lot of ways, this does play like Mario 64. Instead of the castle where you kind of go through the mirrors to get all your different levels, you're in Isla Delfino on Mario's Vacation. and this sort of weird watery version of you comes through, spreads graffiti all over the place, and then eventually, yes, kidnaps the princess.
And everyone's like blaming you for it, right?
Yes, because he looks like you. Of course, he looks nothing like you, but whatever.
Transparent.
So yeah, you do get this flood backpack. This water is its first two abilities. It can spray water everywhere and kind of clean off the graffiti. The other is oh my gosh, I just blanked. Oh, it can hover. So it has this hover option, so you can just kind of get across really long areas. And eventually you get a rocket, which lets you fly straight up really far, or a turbo, which kind of boosts you really, really quickly. It's real clean. I love the art direction. I love the design of the levels. It's really tropical and fun. The music is fantastic. And I think it was brought some freshness to the genre.
It was a smart choice for Nintendo because they really their first one of the first games they launched with was Luigi's Mansion, and they were able to do this like super cartoony dark game, and then they did like the polar opposite with their next super cartoony game, Mario Sunshine.
Absolutely,
they really kind of showed you what the GameCube was capable of, and it sort of blew away the PS2. Not so much the Xbox. I mean, they were on par, I think, with each other, but like the GameCube felt more like a Nintendo console because of these games than like the N64 or even the Wii after it.
Yeah, definitely. It was a return to form and saying, hey, gaming can be fun and colorful and all that, and still really exciting.
Yeah.
You had to unlock 120 shine sprites to beat the game. There were I found actually I didn't realize this before, 240 blue coins hidden throughout the levels. I still have not 100% of this game, and I don't think I ever will. It's I do joke that it's the one game where I first realized that wait, I don't have to 100% games. I can just play till I'm done playing and stop.
Yeah. When we were kids and we only got a game for Christmas and a game for our birthdays, you played 300% of the crap out of those games. You did it over and over. I remember getting to the end of a game like with 100% save file and going, well, what now? So you delete the game and you start over at 0.
And kids these days don't understand that.
No, they absolutely don't.
One other little factoid. So there was actually originally going to be a Super Mario 64 2.
Yeah.
That got canceled.
Wasn't that Mario 128 they were...
Then there was a Super Mario 128. It was
different.
A separate one.
Interesting.
And here's the interesting thing. Actually, a lot of the design ideas from 128 got put on the back burner and brought back to Super Mario Galaxy.
Oh, interesting.
So like the whole running around planetoids and all that, that actually was originally a mechanic designed for Super Mario 128, which never happened. One of the issues was camera control issue, as we were talking about. They couldn't quite make that work on the tech of the day, so they needed to wait till the current generation games to figure, oh, hey, we can solve that now. So, yeah, Super Mario Sunshine, if you haven't played it, I think it's definitely worth taking a look at. There's, people, oh, Super Mario Galaxy is the best one ever. I don't know. It's good. It's really good, but I like the quirky stuff, so sue me. Please don't sue me.
No, don't do that. I got a very, very common one next.
A very common one.
Which is, I think, different for me. I try to stay with the most obscure games I can possibly find.
So if it's a common game, which is uncommon for you, wouldn't it be an uncommon choice?
Indeed, it would be.
It is, okay.
Now, I know there's probably people at home being yelling at their TV or their computer screen going, Banjo-Kazooie or Banjo-Tooie, Sly Cooper, Ratchet and Clank. Just
Spyro.
Crash Bandicoot. Yeah, these are all awesome games. And I played the crap out of almost all of these. Right?
On a
Conker's
side note,
Bad Fur Day.
On a side note, my kids were just watching the new Skylanders show that's on Netflix. Yeah. And I just happened to be walking through the living room. I was like, oh, Crash Bandicoot. And they looked at me like, how do you know who he is? Like,
right?
Yeah.
Yep. They're bringing Crash back, kids. It's going to be awesome.
He has a guest appearance. Ooh. But anyways.
Yeah. So. One of these shows will be Why We Love Crash Bandicoot.
Old.
Psh, don't tell anybody. So the game I'm going to talk about, again, a common game, is the first Jak and Daxter, the precursor legacy.
Ooh, yes.
Now, we're not going to talk about 2 or 3, because they kind of went off the rails on 2 and 3. They kind of turned it into like a Grand Theft Auto clone, and a lot of shooting mechanics. And I think 3 was a great game. 2 was a little rough, but cool. 1 is like just says Brian, Paul, we love you all over the place, because it is that same.
That explains it.
Yeah, I had to clean it up. It's messy. But where I was saying like Mario Sunshine was like bright and colorful and like, you know, really showed off what the GameCube could do. The PlayStation 2, a lot of those games were like dark brown.
Yeah.
Just like, you know, gritty, and they were going for realism, and not Naughty Dog when they made Jak 1.
No.
Because this is like a bright, colorful world. It's very diverse. Beaches and bright skies, and there's deserts and fire worlds and all the typical tropes. Typical tropes. Typical tropes.
Typical tropes.
That's going to be on the next t-shirt. Without pro games, typical tropes.
Actually, it sounds like a breakfast cereal. Typical toast, part of your balanced breakfast.
Yeah, it's sugar-coated. It's just a beautiful game. And I remember the Electronic Gaming Monthly, where, I'm back in the day, you know, you had to wait for like 2 months after E3 to read about E3. You couldn't like live stream it or watch it like moment to moment. But
on the plus side, if you actually attended E3, you got to do demos. So that's
right, because it wasn't crazy ass crowded. Although, so this magazine came out, and it had like, you know, all of the Sony stuff, all the Nintendo stuff, all the Xbox stuff. And this was like an amazing year for PlayStation 2, because the deal is that PlayStation 2 had come out, and there were so many launch games that were like, you know? And like, it was sort of competing with the flailing Dreamcast.
Right.
And there were all these rumors going around that the Dreamcast was actually more capable of, like, you know, higher resolution and better textures than the PlayStation 2 was. In the launch lineup of PlayStation 2 kind of almost proved that to some people.
Yeah.
It wasn't very impressive. There were a lot of rushed games for launch. There was like Ridge Racer 5, which looked better than Ridge Racer 4, but that was on PlayStation 1. And there was Tekken Tag Tournament, which was like a decent upgrade to Tekken 3. But the rest of the games were like, they look okay. Summoner looked like garbage.
Yeah.
Right? So this is not a very long time, maybe like a year or so, I'm guessing, after PlayStation 2 launched. We're getting this magazine, Electronic Gaming Monthly, with, hey, here's the next wave of video games that are coming.
Right.
And I remember seeing like Eco, and it was just like beautiful, cloudy, and like just this very cool aesthetic. Yeah. And right above that was Jak and Daxter, and I remember seeing a picture of Jak hanging off a ledge, right, with Daxter like trying to pull him up or something, and it was like this lush green scenery, and in the background you could just see like miles and miles. And in one of the quotes, it was one of the lead designers. They quoted him by saying, "If you can see it in the background, you can run to it."
Wow.
And there was no load screens, nothing. This was one of the first games that streamed off the disc, like just seamlessly. So,
and that's something modern games still have a hard time with.
Very often have a hard time with. Yeah, there was very, if there were any loading screens, often they were hidden by cutscenes.
Right.
It was just a seamless world, and it was beautifully rendered, cartoony graphics. This would have been at home on the GameCube.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But, you know, as a PlayStation fanboy in the day, I was super duper happy to have this, and of course made by the people who made Crash Bandicoot. So we knew that it was coming. It had great pedigree, and I don't think anything could have actually prepared me for the first time I sat down and played it. And I was like, this is just awesome, classic gameplay. They refined all of those N64 games I listed off, Banjo-Kazooie and Conker's Bad Fur Day, and I didn't list this one, but like Rocket, Robot on Wheels, I think was the great Sucker Punch one.
How about, ready? Gex.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep, Gex, Enter the Gecko, and Deep Cover Gecko.
Important trivia for Gex. A skippable game. However, the voice of Gex.
Oh no,
Dana Gould.
Yeah, it is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he had a lot of one-liners.
Yes, he did.
I heard them all quite a few times.
Which is the other problem with Gex, but that'll be the why we hate 3D platformers episode.
Stay tuned next week. No. So yeah, Jak and Daxter, amazing series. You really can't go wrong with the first one if you like 3D platformers. Like there's like, you know, no real shooting. It's all about you know, spinning to just like Crash Bandicoot to wipe out your enemies or jumping on their head, that kind of thing. It's just a great game.
And not to say, you know, it sounds like, oh, it's very derivative. It's like, well, no, it's kind of, in a lot of ways, it's sort of the perfection.
It's the culmination.
Right. It's the gold standard. Like, you play Jak and Daxter, and then you can compare every other 3D platformer to that. You know, they're better than it at something or worse than it or something, but it is just the 3D platformer. Like, this is the template that they should be based on.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it had all the typical topes. Typical topes, collectathons, you know, all the different worlds, and absolutely go check it out if you haven't played it. And they did a They did an HD collection on the PS3. So
nice.
that'd
Okay.
probably be the place to play it. The Vita version didn't come out so well. So don't do that.
Is it physical disc or downloadable off the...
Physical.
Physical, okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Good stuff.
All right, so eBay.
Right. If I get it for like $10.
So, whereas you went with, a very, very standard but excellent game, I'm going to really... I think in some ways I'm sort of stretching the definition, but like I said, a lot of 3D platformers, I didn't play so much. Here's a 3D platformer I played, I loved, I fell in love with the second I saw gameplay footage of this, the second I heard of the concept. Mirror's Edge.
Huh. Nice.
So it's not a third-person 3D platformer. It is a first-person 3D platformer. But I think by any other standard you can want to judge it by, it is a 3D platformer.
Absolutely, yes. First person, still a 3D platformer.
Yes. Mirror's Edge did something that I don't think any game has really captured. If you're not familiar with it, you play a character by the name of Faith. She's a runner. This is kind of a dystopian future where the government has sort of run everything. Kind of like 1984 George Orwell sort of stuff, but very innocuous, very kind of modern looking. And so to like the rebels and people who are trying to get outside the system, they don't use email, they don't use phones because that can all be tracked. So messages have to be sent by hand through these runners who use parkour style skills to run through the cityscape. One of the things the senior producer Owen O'Brien one of his quote was he wanted you to be able to feel strain and physical contact with the environment. He wanted you to be able to feel like you were actually there. So as Faith is running, you see her hands and her feet, or well, I should say your hands and feet in the screen. So the more you run, the faster your arms pump, the longer your strides get. Your momentum is hugely important. So as you're jumping from obstacle to obstacle, if you stop and slow down, you're not going to be able to make that jump. So you have to back up and run and go for it. The art direction of this game is brilliant. It is a very sparse white world. I mean, most of the things in the environment are white, and that's going to sound very boring, but as you go through, you get more detail, and also your objectives are in red. So, like, you can be looking around, and as the game goes on, you get less and less of the obvious clues of what you're supposed to do. But, you see, like, this, all right, there's a plank, over there that's red, so that means I need to get there somehow, and then I'm going to launch off of that. It also has a bolt type feature. They call it, what do they call it in the game? Is it focus? Doesn't matter. It basically works like focus. So as you go through your path, you keep the momentum, you keep flow, you sort of build up this counter, and you get this kind of bullet time. So you can approach some of the obstacles which are harder and kind of slow down time, giving you more time to make the moves you need to go through. The other thing that I absolutely love about this game, I was kind of born and bred on first-person shooters, so if I sit down in front of a game and I'm seeing that and I'm seeing my hands, I want to pick up a gun. That's the first thing I want to do. Faith can pick up guns. You can walk up to security guards, disarm them in these really cool, somewhere between combat and a quick-time animation,
right.
Disarm them, and you have a gun, but it's really not to your benefit. Guns slow you down. The bigger the gun, the heavier it is, the harder it is for you to move around. Your whole goal is to get through quietly and quickly. A combination of stealth and, oh my god, I need to get out of here.
Right.
So, yeah, you can, pick up a gun and try to shoot your way through, but it's not very successful.
You had mentioned, though, that something about the controls in this game, though.
This is the staggering issue with this game. As beautiful as it is, as much as I like the idea, the setting, the story, the art direction, the controls are iffy. I played on the Xbox 360, I should say, Xbox 360. So your controls, upper was for jumping, and any kind of, and this is one thing that was actually nice. It's not a jump button. It's any kind of upward motion. So it's context sensitive. So if you're walking up to a rail and you hit it, you're not just going to jump up, and you're going to jump up and grab the rail.
So it's like a parkour button.
Exactly, yeah. And the bottom button is for sliding under things or ducking. And again, it's very smart as far as context sensitive. The problem is, I've spent 30 years of gaming learning that my right thumb hits something to jump.
Yeah.
Trying to and I can't remember exactly. It's been a while since I've played it on the Xbox, but that does not jump. So trying to remember that it's my left index finger that I need to be working to doing jumping. It's very hard to get into.
Dying Light did something similar, and I will say I spent countless hours with Dying Light. So it was really jarring to try to get into the game, but eventually you kind of retrain yourself. I'm sure by the end of Mirror's Edge, you might have...
That's the other problem with Mirror's Edge. It's a very short game.
Oh, so you don't have time to adjust.
Yeah, so once you get once you get to the end, you get to the boss, and it's just like, all right, I'm finally just figuring this out, and the game's over. Mm-hmm. There is a sequel, which maybe we'll get to that some other point. I just one final thought I loved. I mentioned before in earlier episodes, I love it when developers take chances. Try something completely different, which this was. Yeah. And again, Owen O'Brien, he said, when he's talking about the art direction, I wanted a game where I could look at the screenshot and say, that's Mirror's Edge. And again, whatever your other thoughts about this are, you see any scene from any part of that game, you know exactly what game you're looking at. There's no game out there that looks anything like this. And I thank you. For all its faults, I think it should be rewarded.
Yeah, it's a great looking game, although it is a warning to hardcore fan bases of any game. Mm-hmm. If you want a sequel and then you finally get a sequel,
buy it.
Buy the sequel. I'm not a Mirror's Edge fan, but man, if I was like clamoring for a Mirror's Edge sequel for years and years, I would have bought it day one, pre-ordered. Right? Get the collector's edition, because you need to show these developers that you want more of this. You're never going to get a Mirror's Edge 3 because you didn't buy Mirror's Edge 2. Not that I feel real bad for Electronic Arts or anything.
And just one thing to throw in at the end. There was a side-scrolling platformer that came out on iOS, Android, and Windows Phone. It's actually not bad. It's somewhere between an Endless Runner and a Mirror's Edge. So, you still use the same kind of parkour skills and all that. It's pretty fun. That's worth a couple bucks. You want to sort of get an idea for the feel of the aesthetic in the story.
Yeah. Well, I got one more I want to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's called... this is a PlayStation 1 game. Oh. This is not the greatest 3D platform game ever made.
All right, good note to end on.
It is. I think this is one where the story is more interesting than the game itself. And
that's hard for a platformer.
I'm going to kind of consider this my honorable mention because I don't have a lot to say on it. Mm-hmm. But it's fun to talk about Croc, Legend of the Gobos.
I have never heard of this game.
Yeah, well, it's about a little green crocodile slash crocodile.
Slash crocodile.
Yep.
Half crocodile, half crocodile.
This game came out on the PlayStation 1 Saturn. And again, there's a Game Boy Color version. I can't imagine that was 3D platforming.
I'm sure it was.
But you're Croc, the titular hero.
Croc the Croc.
Croc the Croc. And
you said the story was the good part about this game.
Well, the story about the development of this game.
Oh, okay.
So if you're familiar with a company called Argonaut Software, you may recognize them as the developer of Star Fox for the Super Nintendo.
Oh, yes, okay.
Right?
I've heard of that. That's a little indie title.
Yeah, so it's pretty obvious that Argonaut and Nintendo had a great working relationship because Star Fox was the bomb, yo.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So Argonaut went to Nintendo. Mm-hmm. And they pitched this game as an N64 exclusive. And It was going to be a kind of a spin-off to Mario 64.
Okay.
It was going to be an open world-ish 3D platformer starring the character we all know and love, Yoshi.
Oh. Okay.
And Croc...
He wasn't in Mario 64.
Right. Oh. Croc looks suspiciously like Yoshi. It's a green crocodile. Instead of a green dinosaur, he looks very similar. Nintendo said, we're not interested. We're going to pass. And that ended the Argonaut-Nintendo relationship.
So that ended it, or them releasing this game?
Nope. Nintendo saying no. And ended it.
Okay.
And so as far as I know, they never worked together again. And they brought this game, basically their concept for a 3D Yoshi game, to Sega Saturn and PlayStation 1.
Okay.
And apparently the Game Boy Color, but
yeah,
we're not going to talk about that one.
Did he have the same abilities as Yoshi? Was he like...
No.
Okay.
He didn't have that. Obviously they changed some things to make it not a total rip-off. It's sort of a generic 3D platformer. It sold well enough to get a sequel. Croc 2 does exist, and it's just as average as Croc 1.
Okay.
There's nothing bad about these games, but there's nothing exciting about these games either. I just love the fact that this could have been at one point
a Yoshi platformer,
a 3D Yoshi platformer on the N64. And can we be honest here? The N64 needed that. Like you said, Mario 64 never got a sequel, not a proper sequel on the N64.
And could you imagine a 3D platformer with the graphics and the art style of the Yoshi's Island?
How amazing.
With the Baby Marios and all that? That would be great.
It would be phenomenal. Nintendo, I mean, I don't think this would have been a great Yoshi game, but I think under Nintendo's supervision, with Miyamoto making sure that everything was going smoothly, he could have like tweaked and like given us suggestions here and there. You never know what this could have been. Right,
because like you said, this looks a little uninspired, but if you could take the creativity, like you said, of Miyamoto, or even just kind of the brain trust at Nintendo and said, here's how you make this fun.
Yeah. Or to have like creative license, like to take the Mushroom Kingdom and be able to put it in this game.
Yeah.
Instead of like the generic whatever kingdom that we're in. It could have been something special, and it's special in its own right, but it's not going to go down in history as anything that anyone's going to look back fondly on to remember.
I guess I just had one little honorable mention I want to throw in there, and this was it was kind of like came to me as we were talking about this game and going back and watching some gameplay footage. Prince of Persia: Sands of Time.
Yes.
A fantastic 3D platformer, resurrected the Prince of Persia franchise is the word I'm looking for.
And good old Jordan Mesher finally had something to do again, huh?
Yes, yeah. Well, actually, he wasn't even involved at the very beginning of this.
Good old Jordan Mesher getting paid again.
Yes. So they started it, and he was like, no, I've had enough of doing this. And they said, no, we're really doing Ubisoft. Ubisoft had bought the rights to the game, but they didn't really have the IP rights exactly, so it was kind of weird. And they brought him in and said, look at the cool stuff we're doing. It's like, and Mesher said, oh, you are doing cool stuff. Okay, yes, I'm in. It introduced a lot of things that are very kind of common now, especially the rewind. If you haven't played it, there's the blade. Oh my gosh, what's it called? The knife. Well, there's the dagger of time.
Oh yeah.
Your main weapon. You kill all the bad guys with it. You suck up the sand they're made of, and you can use that sand to go back in time. Which for a platformer with really crazy jumping puzzles is awesome, because I screwed up. Rewind and do it again.
And you're going to rewind a lot because there's a lot of running on walls and swinging on poles, and a lot of just spike pits.
And one thing I hadn't realized until I'd gone back and kind of watched this gameplay footage again, Assassin's Creed, guys, you ripped off everything from this game. I'm sorry. Just the way he moves, the way he walking around. It's
Ubisoft, so they just kind of transitioned one into the other.
Yeah, but anyway, so definitely check that out. There's a remastered edition you can get that looks fantastic. But yeah, it's definitely one you want to go check out.
Yeah, good stuff. We'll have to come back to this topic sometime in the future.
Okay. Oh, so... All right, so you've entered your answer in the comments.
Oh, I'm glad you remembered.
Yes,
I would have forgotten.
Here we go.
Flood, F-L-U-D-D.
F-L-U-D-D. The Flash Liquidizing Ultra Dowsing Device. I had no idea either. In fact, I'm sure it said in the manual. I never actually paid attention to the game.
And this has got to be the reason that they kept the English acting, because F-L-U-D-D does not translate to Japanese.
I can't imagine what that would be. Yeah.
It would just be a bunch of kanji.
So
Kanji. Who's Kenji?
Probably Romaji,
Kenji.
actually. So here's my next. Also, cosplay I've never seen. I want to see someone dressed as the Flood backpack. I'm sure someone out there did it somewhere.
You didn't search for this?
I didn't. I want someone to surprise me with it.
There's got to be some deviant art out there about this.
No. Yeah. I do not want to see Flood in compromising positions.
Send us your Flood deviant.
Oh man, my mind is just off on this tangent now that I need to go burn my brain. Okay.
Don't forget to support us on Patreon.
Please.
So it doesn't have to burn his brain. Yeah, that was a great episode. We'll see you next week with some unknown topic. Hopefully it's something that you're interested in. Please send us in the comments below. Tell us what you want us to talk about, because we actually rack our brains every week to figure out what we want to talk about. So maybe if you send us a direction, we can head down that path.
And the only thing I can think of right now is Rule 34 and Flood. So please give us something new to think about.
For Gaming Without Parole, my name's Brian Paul.
My name's Desra.
And we'll see you next week.